There is a quiet power that lives inside every human being, the power of asking. Most people never tap into it. They hold back, they assume, they fear rejection, and so they settle for less than they deserve. But history, success, and personal growth are built upon one simple principle: those who ask, receive. This audiobook is about the art of asking. Not asking carelessly, but asking with intention, with clarity, and with courage. Because when you learn how to ask the right way, you discover that doors you thought were locked were only waiting for you to knock. Let's explore how to master this art and unlock a life where you can truly get whatever you want. Most people underestimate the simple act of asking. They think of it as weakness, as begging, or as something reserved for desperate moments. But asking is not weakness. It is a hidden strength that shapes destinies. It is the invisible bridge between where you are and where you want to be. Every great achievement in life, no matter how large or small, began with a single request, a single voice daring to say, "This is what I want." Asking is declaring to the world and to yourself that you believe you are worthy of more. Think about the innocence of a child. When a child is hungry, they don't hesitate to say, "I want food." There is no shame, no pride to get in the way. They trust someone will hear them, care for them, and respond. Yet somewhere along the journey into adulthood, we learn to suppress that instinct. We become afraid of rejection. We start to carry the weight of pride, assuming that if we ask, we reveal a weakness. So instead, we keep quiet. We hope someone will notice our needs, our dreams, our ambitions, without us ever speaking them aloud. And because we stay silent, opportunities slip past us, unnoticed and unclaimed. But the truth is, silence rarely brings success. Life doesn't reward those who wait quietly in the shadows. It rewards those who step into the light and ask. There is a powerful saying, "Closed mouths don't get fed." If you do not ask, you guarantee the answer will be nothing. But if you dare to ask, you open the door to possibility, even if the answer is no. You are still farther along than you were before. That carries lessons, insights, or perhaps simply redirection toward a better opportunity. Consider the great changes in your life so far. The friendships you built, the opportunities you seized, the moments of growth you experienced. At their root, many of them began because you asked. Maybe you asked for help when you were struggling, and someone showed up for you. Maybe you asked for advice, and that advice changed the way you thought. Maybe you asked to be considered for a role, and that ask led to a career breakthrough. These were not coincidences. They were the natural outcome of daring to make your desires known. Asking is also an act of courage. It requires vulnerability, because you place yourself in a position where the answer could be rejection, and rejection hurts. But if you look closely, you'll see that rejection is not an ending. It's a guidepost. It tells you where not to walk, so you can find the path that is truly yours. Every no is a step closer to the yes you are searching for. Those who ask often and with resilience discover that life eventually bends in their favor. There is also a deeper truth. Asking creates connection. When you ask another person for something, whether it's guidance, support, or opportunity, you are not taking from them. You are inviting them into your journey. You are giving them a chance to contribute, to share, to be part of something meaningful. Asking is not theft. Asking is partnership. It is the exchange that allows humans to grow together. Imagine if no one ever asked. Imagine a world where no one asked questions, no one asked for help, no one asked for more. Progress would stop. Innovation would vanish. Relationships would wither. Asking is not only personal power, it is the force that moves humanity forward. Every invention, every discovery, every story of success began with a question, with someone daring to voice what others were afraid to say. The first step, then, is to recognize that asking is not small. It is not embarrassing. It is not a flaw. Asking is the foundation of every transformation you desire. It is the seed of change. And like every seed, it must be planted before it can grow. If you never plant it, you will never harvest the life you dream of. So the next time you find yourself, before you can ask for anything in life, you must first be crystal clear on what it is that you truly want. This is where most people stumble. They walk through life carrying desires that are vague, undefined, and shapeless. They say they want success, but what does success look like for them? Is it financial freedom, building a family, creating an impact, or achieving mastery in a chosen field? They say they want happiness, but what kind of happiness? The joy of freedom, the peace of simplicity, or the thrill of adventure? Without clarity, desires remain no more than daydreams, and daydreams rarely become reality. Think for a moment about ordering at a restaurant. If you sit down and simply tell the waiter, "Bring me food," what happens? You will either confuse the waiter or end up with something that may not satisfy you at all. But if you say, "Bring me a warm bowl of vegetable soup with fresh bread on the side," your order is precise, and the chances of receiving exactly what you want multiply instantly. Life works in the same way. When your request to the world is unclear, the response will also be unclear. But when you ask with specificity, you create the possibility of receiving something meaningful. Clarity is power. It sharpens not only your words, but also your energy, your confidence, and your presence. People are far more likely to help someone who knows exactly what they are asking for than someone who speaks in generalities. Imagine two individuals going to their boss. The first says, "I'd like to be paid more." The second says, I would like a salary increase of 15% because I've managed 3 successful projects this quarter that generated measurable results. Which one do you think gets taken more seriously? The difference lies in clarity. But clarity is not only about being specific with others. It begins within yourself. You must ask yourself first, what do I truly want? Too often, people inherit desires from society, family, or peers. They chase a bigger house, a flashier car, or a higher title without ever pausing to question if those are their genuine goals. Clarity requires honesty. It demands that you strip away borrowed ambitions and dig into your own heart. When your desires are authentic, your asking carries conviction. And conviction has a power that cannot be ignored. One way to develop clarity is to visualize the outcome you seek. Close your eyes and picture your life once your ask is fulfilled. What does your environment look like? How do you feel? What daily actions are you engaged in? The more detailed your vision, the more certain your path becomes. Vision creates focus, and focus directs energy. Without vision, your energy scatters in every direction, leaving you exhausted but unfulfilled. Consider the story of an archer. If the target is blurry, every arrow fired is wasted. But once the archer sharpens his vision and clearly sees the bullseye, each shot becomes more intentional, more directed, and more effective. In the same way, clarity in asking turns random attempts into deliberate steps toward your goal. There is also a deeper dimension to clarity. It communicates respect. When you approach someone with a clear, thought-out request, you are respecting their time, their attention, and their ability to respond. Vague requests feel careless and inconsiderate. Specific requests feel intentional and respectful. This subtle difference can determine whether someone says yes or no to your ask. A clarity also brings peace of mind. When you know what you want, indecision loses its grip on you. Doubt fades because your path is visible. And with peace comes confidence, the kind of confidence that inspires trust in others. Asking clearly is not only about increasing your chances of receiving. It is about strengthening your alignment. Remember this: the universe, like people, responds to clarity. If you stand uncertain, the response you get will mirror that uncertainty. If you stand sure, your ask carries weight. And when your ask carries weight, it becomes harder to ignore. So before you step into the world with your request, pause. Refine. Ask yourself, what do I really want? Why do I want it? How will it change my life? Once you can answer these questions with precision, your words will no longer be whispers into the wind. They will be arrows aimed at the heart of your future. And that is the beginning of getting whatever you truly desire. Fear sits at the doorway of every unspoken request. It is the silent barrier that keeps people from reaching out, from voicing what they need, from declaring their worth. Many live their entire lives carrying unasked questions in their hearts because they are afraid of hearing the word no. Yet, the truth is that rejection is not a dead end. It is simply part of the process. Every no contains information. It tells you that the timing may be wrong, that your approach may need refinement, or that another path may be waiting for you. Seen this way, rejection becomes feedback, not failure. Think of a salesperson who introduces a product to 10 people and hears 9 rejections. The untrained mind sees 9 failures. The wise mind sees 9 opportunities to learn and adjust, and 1 victory that makes the effort worthwhile. If that salesperson had been too afraid to ask even once, they would have ended with 0 outcomes. The lesson is simple: fear of rejection guarantees emptiness, but courage at least creates possibility. The act of asking boldly does something powerful to both you and the person you are speaking to. For you, it strengthens your inner belief. It tells your subconscious that your voice matters and that your desires are worth bringing into the light. For the person receiving your request, it communicates confidence. And confidence is magnetic. People are naturally drawn to those who speak with calm certainty, because it suggests that you believe in your own value. When you show belief in yourself, others begin to believe in you as well. Fear often whispers a dangerous question in the mind. What if they say no? The better question to ask is, what if they say yes? Think about that. What if your request could open the door to a promotion, a new relationship, an opportunity that changes the entire trajectory of your life? The only way to find out is to step through the discomfort of asking. The possible reward always outweighs the temporary sting of rejection. It is important to understand that asking without fear does not mean asking recklessly. It does not mean shouting demands, nor does it mean pushing when the answer is clearly no. Asking without fear is about approaching with calmness, respect, and quiet conviction. It is knowing that whatever the response, you walk away with dignity intact. Because even in rejection, you have gained something: proof that you were brave enough to try. And bravery is never wasted. Consider the story of a young professional who wanted to move ahead in her career. She longed to work on bigger projects, but doubted her chances. For months, she hesitated, convincing herself that her boss would think she was unprepared. Finally, one day, she gathered her courage and asked. To her surprise, her boss smiled and said, "I was waiting for you to say that. Let's give you the chance." The opportunity had been there all along. The only barrier was her silence. How many chances do we lose? Not because others withheld them, but because we never asked. Even if the answer is no, the ground is still fertile for growth. A refusal may lead you to ask a different person, in a different way, or at a different time. Each attempt builds resilience, teaching you that your worth is not tied to any single response. you begin to realize that a no is not the end of your story. It is merely a comma, a pause before the next attempt. Fear will never fully disappear. It will always be there, whispering doubts. But courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward, in spite of it. When you feel your voice trembling, speak anyway. When you feel your hands shaking, extend them anyway. Each time you push through the fear, its power over you diminishes, and your power over your future grows. The truth is this: the cost of asking is discomfort, but the cost of not asking is regret. And regret is far heavier to carry than fear ever will be. So let your courage be louder than your hesitation. Remember that the worst that can happen is you remain where you already are. The best that can happen is you move toward the life you have always wanted. And that possibility is worth every ounce of bravery. Timing is one of the most overlooked elements in the art of asking, yet it often determines the difference between receiving a yes and being turned away. Even the most confident request, if delivered at the wrong moment, can collapse under its own weight. Life, much like nature, moves in rhythms and seasons. Just as a farmer knows not to plant seeds in frozen soil, we must learn not to force opportunities when the ground is not yet ready to receive them. Think of a moment when you were exhausted, overwhelmed, and someone came to you with a request. No matter how valid their need was, you likely struggled to give her full attention. The timing was wrong. Now picture another situation. You had just achieved something meaningful. Your energy was high, and someone asked for your support. Your willingness to help was much greater. The difference was not the request itself. It was the timing of when it was made. Those who understand timing do not rush. They wait for alignment. They study patterns, observe moods, and sense the flow of energy in people and situations. Timing is not about manipulation, but about awareness. It is being present enough to recognize when a door is slightly open and choosing that exact moment to step forward. In everyday life, this principle shows up constantly. Imagine asking your employer for a raise. If you ask in the middle of a crisis or after a poor performance report, the soil is cold. But if you wait until you have delivered consistent value, until the company has seen growth, until your contributions are undeniable, the soil is fertile. The request, planted at the right moment, has far greater chance of growing into a yes. Timing also requires patience. Many people sabotage their own opportunities because they cannot wait. They push, they demand, they rush into conversations without considering whether the moment is ready. Patience, however, does not mean passivity. It means preparation. While you wait, you are not idle. You are building evidence, strengthening your case, observing the environment, and aligning your ask with the moment. It will be most welcomed. There is also a deeper level to timing, listening to your own readiness. Sometimes, the timing is not about the other person, but about you. Prepared to receive what you are asking for? Are you strong enough to handle the responsibility of success? Many people ask prematurely, before they have developed the skills, the discipline, or the mindset required to sustain what they seek. Asking too early can place a weight upon you that you are not yet ready to carry. Great askers understand this balance. They do not hesitate endlessly out of fear, nor do they charge forward blindly. They stand in the middle, aware, patient, prepared. They know that the perfect moment is not something you stumble into, but something you create through alignment of effort and awareness. A story is told of a man who wanted to cross a river. He stood on the bank, waiting for the waters to calm. At times, the river raged wildly, and he held back. At other times, the river softened, and he stepped forward. When he finally chose his moment wisely, he crossed with ease. Timing is the river of life. When you rush into raging waters, you risk drowning. But when you wait for the flow and step in with preparation, you reach the other side. In your own journey, learn to respect timing. It will not always be perfect. Sometimes you will misjudge, but with experience, you will develop the sensitivity to sense when the moment is right. And then that moment comes. Do not hesitate. Step forward boldly. For timing without action is wasted opportunity. An action without timing is wasted effort. Life rewards not just those who ask, but those who know when to ask. By respecting timing, you align yourself with the natural flow of opportunity. And when you step in harmony with that flow, your requests carry greater weight. Your voice is heard more deeply, and your chances of receiving what you desire multiply. Words are more than sounds. They are carriers of energy, and the way you choose them can determine whether your request is embraced or rejected. When you ask for something, you are not just communicating a need. You are shaping how others feel in your presence. The difference between a clumsy request and a skillful one is often the difference between a closed door and an open opportunity. Many people fail to realize that tone and structure matter as much as the request itself. Imagine someone mumbling nervously, could you maybe help me if you have time? The uncertainty in their voice weakens the ask. Now imagine the same request framed with calm confidence. I would appreciate your help with this task. It will truly make a difference. The second request carries conviction. It does not demand. It does not beg. It presents respect and confidence at the same time. When you ask, you are not just exchanging words. You are transferring belief. People rarely respond to what you say. They respond to the energy behind it. If your energy is desperate, your words will sound desperate. If your energy is calm and assured, your words will inspire trust. A confident request makes the other person feel that they are contributing to something meaningful. A timid or aggressive request makes them feel burdened. Think of the way leaders communicate. They do not plead, and they do not bark orders. They use language that inspires cooperation. They frame their words with vision and clarity. You can do the same in your everyday life. Instead of saying, "I need this done right now," which creates pressure, you can say, "It would help greatly if this could be done today. It will allow us to move forward smoothly." Both ask for the same result, but one builds resistance, while the other builds agreement. The art of asking through language is about balance. Too much humility, and you appear uncertain. Too much authority, and you create resistance. But when you stand firmly in the middle, blending humility with strength, your words invite cooperation. This balance is felt not only in what you say, but in how you say it. A steady voice, steady eye contact, and composed body language turn ordinary words into persuasive ones. Another key principle is replacing weak phrases with strong ones. Phrases like maybe, possibly, or if it's not too much trouble, dilute your request. They may seem polite, but they signal doubt. True politeness does not require weakness. Instead, use phrases such as, "I would value your perspective," or "Your support would make a real difference." These statements remain respectful, but they also carry weight. Consider how a teacher inspires students to learn. The teacher does not say, "You have to study or you'll fail." Instead, they might say, "If you give your best effort now, you will create opportunities for yourself later." The words paint a future vision, not a threat. Your asks should work the same way, connecting the request to a larger meaning, not simply a personal gain. Stories and examples can strengthen your ask. When you explain why your request matters, it becomes more relatable. If you ask for someone's support, add a short story. When we complete this, it will not only help us today, but also build something valuable for the future. The moment you connect your ask to a meaningful outcome, people begin to feel invested. Always remember that your language should uplift, not corner. When people feel pressured, they resist. When they feel respected, they respond positively. Asking is not about forcing people into agreement. It is about creating the conditions where saying yes feels natural. And there is one more subtle truth. The words you use to ask others are the same words you use to ask life for what you want. If your inner language is filled with doubt, "I can't," "I don't deserve this," "I'm not ready," your outer language will reflect it. But if your inner dialogue is firm, "I am worthy," "I am prepared," "I will succeed," then your external asks will carry that same strength. In the end, asking is not only about what leaves your lips, but about what lives in your heart. Words backed by belief create results. Words without conviction dissolve into the air. When you master the language of asking, you will discover that people listen more carefully, opportunities respond more quickly, and the doors you once thought locked will open more easily. Persistence is one of the greatest qualities that separate dreamers from doers. Most people imagine that success comes from a single bold move or one lucky opportunity. In truth, success often comes from showing up again and again, asking one more time, when others have already walked away. The moment you choose persistence, you give yourself permission to break through barriers that defeat most people. Think about it. How many times have you given up after the first rejection? You asked once, you heard no, and you walked away with disappointment. Yet, if you had asked again, with more thought, more preparation, and more conviction, the answer might have been different. The first, no, is rarely the final word. It is often just a test, a way of life asking, how badly do you want this? Rejection is not the end. It is feedback. Every refusal contains information. It tells you that maybe your timing was off, your request was unclear, or your delivery lacked strength. Instead of shrinking under rejection, the persistent person studies it, learns from it, and returns stronger. Every no sharpens the blade of your character, so when the yes finally comes, you are prepared to hold it with strength and gratitude. Persistence is not about nagging or forcing. It is about dignified resilience. It is asking with respect, then returning with greater wisdom. When the door doesn't open, imagine water dripping on a stone. One drop of water is powerless, but repeated drops over time carve valleys into rock. Persistence works the same way. Steady, calm, unstoppable. The rock does not crumble in a day, but persistence ensures it cannot last forever. Life rewards those who endure. Many opportunities are not given to the most talented or the most intelligent, but to the ones who refuse to stop showing up. Talent will fail without persistence. Intelligence will hesitate without persistence. But persistence alone, steady and unyielding, has the power to outlast almost anything. Think of the inventors, the leaders, the entrepreneurs, the ordinary men and women who refuse to quit. Behind every story of triumph lies a trail of rejections, closed doors, and failures. The difference between those who achieved greatness and those who gave up was not luck. It was persistence. They were willing to hear no 100 times to earn one yes. And that one yes changed everything. But persistence is more than just trying repeatedly. It is about evolving with each attempt. If your first approach didn't work, persistence is not repeating the same mistake endlessly. It is adjusting your strategy, improving your request, finding new ways to frame your ask, and demonstrating growth. Persistence without wisdom is stubbornness. Persistence with wisdom is power. There will be moments when persistence feels exhausting, when the weight of rejection begins to sink into your chest. This is when most people quit. They decide it is easier to accept defeat than to keep asking. But if you push through that moment, if you take one more step when your legs are tired, you will discover something remarkable, strength you did not know you had. Persistence builds inner resilience. It creates a mind that refuses to bow down to temporary obstacles. Understand this truth. The world does not hand over its treasures to the impatient. It hides them behind trials, delays, and rejections, waiting for the persistent to claim them. When you persist, you prove your seriousness. You demonstrate that you are not chasing a passing desire, but a true vision, and life respects vision backed by endurance. So keep asking, keep refining, keep returning. Do it with dignity. Do it with calmness. Do it with faith. The answer you seek may not arrive on the first attempt, or even the fifth, but each effort builds momentum, and momentum has a way of breaking through walls. Persistence is the difference between almost achieving and actually achieving. It is the quiet strength that whispers, "Try again." And in that whisper lies the key to getting whatever you want. When we think of asking, most people imagine it as a single act, a request spoken, a question posed, a desire voiced. But the deeper truth is that asking is not just about speaking. It is equally about listening. If you only speak, your ask becomes a monologue, an echo of your own wants. But when you listen, truly listen, you turn your request into a dialogue, and dialogue is where real change happens. Many people lose opportunities, not because their ask was wrong, but because they never took time to listen to the response. Behind the response, words are only part of communication. There are pauses, tones, silences, and body language that tell you far more than the actual answer. When someone says, "I'll think about it," do they mean it sincerely, or is it a polite no? When someone hesitates before responding, is it because they are unsure, or because they feel uncomfortable with the way you framed the request? These subtleties are only visible to those who are willing to slow down and listen carefully. Listening is a form of respect. It tells the other person, "I value not just what you can give me, but also what you feel and think." And respect creates openness. When people feel heard, they are far more likely to consider your request with goodwill. Think about your own life. How many times have you resisted someone's ask because it felt like a demand, not a conversation? Contrast that with the times you felt genuinely listened to. Didn't you feel more inclined to help, even if it required effort? There is also power in listening to what is not said. Sometimes, the person you are asking simply cannot meet your request, but in their explanation, they may reveal an alternative path. If you pay attention, you may discover a better solution than the one you originally imagined. For instance, you might ask a manager for a raise and hear a hesitant, "Not right now." If you stop listening at those words, you might leave disappointed. But if you lean in and listen further, you may catch. But if you take on this new project, it will open the door to promotions. The opportunity was there, but only for the one who listens beyond the surface. Listening also teaches humility. It reminds us that asking is not about bending others to our will. It is about aligning needs, finding mutual benefit, and creating bridges. The most successful asks are never one-sided. They emerge from a space where both sides feel they gain something. And that is only possible when listening is present. There is a saying, "Seek first to understand, then to be understood." When you ask with this principle in mind, your words carry greater weight. People sense your sincerity. They feel less defensive, less guarded, more willing to engage. They realize that you are not simply trying to extract something from them. You are building a relationship, and relationships, not demands, are what sustain long-term success. To cultivate the skill of listening in your asks, practice patience. Resist the urge to fill every silence with your own words. Allow pauses. Give space for thought. Ask follow-up questions not to argue, but to understand. Listen not just to answer, but to truly grasp the other person's perspective. When you develop this ability, your asks will transform. You will no longer be the person who barges into situations with rigid demands. You will become the person who opens conversations with curiosity, receives wisdom from unexpected places, and builds agreements that last. In the end, asking is never just about getting what you want. It is about creating a flow of exchange where both sides feel seen, heard, and valued. And that flow begins, always, with the quiet strength of listening. Trust is the foundation upon which every meaningful connection is built, and it is also the soil where every powerful request takes root. Without trust, even the most carefully crafted words sound hollow. With trust, even a simple ask carries. And respect. When you think about the people you are willing to go the extra mile for, they are not strangers. They are the people who have earned your confidence, shown you their reliability, and proven that their words can be trusted. That is why before you ask, you must first build. You must invest time and effort in creating the kind of bond where your voice will be welcomed rather than doubted. Consider for a moment the difference between a stranger approaching you with a request and a long-time friend asking the same thing. A stranger's words may make you cautious, hesitant, and even suspicious. But when a trusted friend asks, you lean in, you listen, and often you say yes without hesitation. Why? Because trust eliminates doubt. It tells you that this person will not waste your effort, that they value what you give, and that they will stand by their word. Trust transforms an ask into an opportunity for collaboration rather than a burden. To build this trust, consistency is key. People do not trust words alone. They trust actions repeated over time. When you show up when you say you will, when you follow through on promises, both big and small, when you speak honestly even when the truth is uncomfortable. You are planting seeds of credibility. Each of these moments may seem small on their own, but together they weave a reputation that others can depend on. And when the time comes for you to ask, that reputation speaks for you long before your lips form the words. Trust is also built by the way you treat others. People remember how you make them feel. If your presence brings a sense of safety, if your words uplift rather than tear down, if your energy communicates respect rather than arrogance, you become someone people want to support. Asking is not only about presenting your need, it is about creating an environment where the other person feels valued, seen, and respected. When someone trusts that you will honor their time, energy, and resources, they are far more likely to say yes. There is another layer to trust that is often overlooked: self-trust. If you do not trust yourself, your ask will sound uncertain, weak, or hesitant. People can sense when your words lack conviction, but when you believe deeply in your worth, when you trust your own vision and your ability to handle responsibility, that energy radiates outward. Others will mirror the confidence you carry within yourself. Self-trust becomes the invisible backbone of your requests. Without it, you lean on others out of insecurity. With it, you invite them to walk alongside you out of strength. Think of trust as a bridge. Without it, two people stand on opposite cliffs, unable to reach one another. Your ask becomes a shout across the gap, rarely heard and rarely answered. But with trust, the bridge is built. Your request crosses smoothly, and so does the response. The stronger the bridge, the heavier the weight it can carry. In other words, the more trust you build, the greater the asks you can make. At first, you may ask for small things, a bit of time, a small opportunity. But as trust deepens, you can ask for more significant commitments, and those commitments are more likely to be honored. This principle is true in every sphere of life: business, friendships, leadership, and love. A leader who has not built trust will find their team reluctant, resistant, and disengaged. But a leader who has invested in trust will find their team ready to support even the boldest of visions. In relationships, a request made without trust can sound manipulative. But when trust exists, a simple request can be seen as an act of intimacy, a deepening of connection. Ultimately, trust is not something you demand. It is something you earn. And once you earn it, it becomes a currency more valuable than money, more powerful than authority. When people trust you, they do not just hear your ask. They believe in it. They see your intention. They know your character. And they want to be part of your journey. That is why, before you focus on the art of asking, you must focus on the art of building. Trust first, ask second. And when you do, you will discover that many doors, which seemed locked, will open with a simple knock. Every relationship in life is built on a rhythm of give and take. When we learn to respect this balance, asking for what we want becomes far more natural and far more effective. Too often, people approach asking as if it is one-sided, like making a demand or taking something away from another person. But the truth is, when we give before we ask, our requests are not perceived as burdens. Instead, they feel like continuation of a fair exchange, a cycle that keeps the relationship healthy and alive. Think of the people in your own life. When someone has supported you, encouraged you, or shown up for you when you needed them, how do you feel when they later ask for your help? Chances are you feel eager to say yes. Why? Because you trust that their request comes from a place of fairness. You know they are not simply taking, but also giving back. That same principle applies to every area of life, whether in friendships, business partnerships, family relationships, or community. When we give, we are not simply offering something material. Giving can be encouragement. It can be attention. It can be honesty. It can be time. These are often more valuable than money or gifts, because they build trust and connection. And once that foundation is established, your ask carries weight. People respond not just to the words you say, but to the character you have shown them over time. But giving does not mean giving away everything until you are empty. Balance is the key word. Just as asking without giving creates resentment, giving without ever asking creates exhaustion. The goal is not to play the role of the eternal giver who never speaks up. That path leads to burnout and unspoken bitterness. The goal is harmony, to be someone who contributes and also receives, someone who supports and also allows others the chance to support you. Imagine a workplace. If you consistently deliver high-quality work, help your colleagues when they struggle, and bring a positive spirit to the team, what happens when you finally ask for a raise or a new opportunity? Your manager sees your request differently. They are reminded of your reliability, your contribution, your willingness to uplift others. Saying yes to you feels natural. Now compare that to the person who constantly complains, contributes the minimum, and only shows up when they want something, even if their request is valid. The response they receive will likely be far colder. Why? Because asking is never judged in isolation. It is weighed against the pattern of your actions. Think also of personal relationships. A friendship thrives when both people give and both people ask. If one friend constantly leans on the other for favors, advice, or emotional support without ever offering the same in return, imbalance forms. Resentment grows quietly. But when both people are willing to serve and support each other, asking for help is not seen as a burden. It becomes a sign of trust, and close art of asking, then, requires us to shift from a mindset of taking to a mindset of exchange. Every time you consider asking for something, reflect first, how have I given? What value have I created for this person, this team, or this community? When you approach your requests with this awareness, they carry dignity, they carry fairness, and more often than not, they are answered with generosity. One of the most powerful truths you can remember is this: people want to give. They want to help, support, and uplift others, especially those who have done the same for them. Asking is not about forcing someone's hand. It is about opening the door for them to express generosity in return. By giving first, you make it easier for others to say yes, not because they feel obligated, but because they genuinely want to. So let your life reflect this rhythm. Be generous with your words, your time, your encouragement. Build trust with your actions. Create value wherever you go. Then, when it is time to ask, you will not need to force or persuade. Your request will feel like the natural continuation of a relationship built on respect. And that is when asking becomes powerful, when it is not about taking, but about completing the cycle of giving and receiving. Every time you step into the uncomfortable space of asking, you are pushing against the limits of your comfort zone. At first, the act may seem overwhelming. Your voice might quiver, your palms may sweat, and your heart could race at the thought of hearing the word no. That is natural. It is the body's way of reminding you that you are entering new territory. But it is within this very discomfort that transformation begins. Growth never happens in the safety of what is familiar. It happens when you lean into the unfamiliar, when you dare to risk rejection, and when you are willing to feel awkward in pursuit of something greater. Think of the first time you rode a bicycle. The pedals felt shaky, your balance uncertain, and fear lingered with every wobble. But as you practiced, the unfamiliar became familiar. The same is true with asking. The first request feels heavy, but each time you do it, you gain balance. Each attempt strengthens your courage, until one day, you realize that what once terrified you now feels effortless. Discomfort is not an enemy. It is a signal. It tells you that you are stretching, that you are evolving beyond the person you were yesterday. Too often, people avoid this signal. They retreat at the first sign of unease and convince themselves that staying silent is safer. But silence is not safety. It is stagnation. When you avoid discomfort, you avoid growth. And when you avoid growth, you avoid the very opportunities that could change your life. Consider the countless chances that slip away because someone was too afraid to ask. A promotion goes to someone else because the silent worker never spoke up. A relationship never blossoms because someone kept their feelings hidden. A dream remains distant because the dreamer never dared to request the support they needed. The tragedy is not in being denied. It is in never stepping forward at all. Expanding your comfort zone requires practice. Start small. Ask for something simple, even if it seems insignificant. Each small request builds your confidence, like lifting light weights before attempting the heavier ones. Over time, your capacity grows. You realize that rejection does not destroy you, embarrassment does not define you, and the fear that once held you back loses its grip. The beautiful truth is that your comfort zone expands. Every time you lean into discomfort, what feels terrifying today may feel natural tomorrow. Asking your manager for more responsibility, approaching someone you admire for guidance, or sharing your dreams with a potential supporter, all of these moments that once seemed impossible will one day feel like second nature. That is the gift of practice. Growth is uncomfortable, but so is regret. Which pain would you rather carry? The temporary sting of rejection, or the lifelong aching of wondering what could have been? If only you had asked. The discomfort of asking fades quickly. The regret of silence lingers for years. Choose the discomfort that shapes you, not the one that chains you. Every bold question you ask is not just about the you receive. It is about the person you become in the process. You become someone stronger, someone braver, someone more willing to step into possibility. And as your comfort zone widens, so does your life. Doors that once felt sealed suddenly swing open. Connections that seemed unreachable now become accessible. Opportunities you never imagined begin to appear, simply because you were willing to ask. The art of asking is the art of growth. Every request is a stepping stone toward a larger, freer, and more powerful version of yourself. So embrace the tremble in your voice, the quickened beat of your heart, and the slight unease in your spirit. They are not signs of weakness. They are signs that you are alive, stretching and expanding. Each time you face them, you are not just asking for something external. You are asking yourself to rise. And the more you rise, the more life will rise to meet you. When we think about asking, most of the time we picture conversations with people, family, colleagues, mentors, strangers. But there is another dimension to asking, one that goes deeper than words spoken to others. It is the act of asking life itself. This kind of asking is less about negotiation and more about vision, faith, and alignment. It is when you set your intention so clearly and so powerfully that the world begins to respond in ways you could not predict. This is not about blind superstition or wishful thinking. It is about cultivating a mindset where you consistently direct your focus toward what you truly want. Imagine a traveler who sets a destination on a map. The roads may twist and turn, obstacles may appear, but because the destination is clear, the journey always continues forward. Asking the universe is very similar. You speak your destination, you envision it, and you keep moving in that direction. The path may surprise you, but the goal stays in sight. When you hold a strong vision, You begin to act in harmony with it. Your daily choices shift. You walk with a new sense of purpose. You notice opportunities that were invisible before, simply because your mind is now trained to look for them. Someone who believes they are unlucky will overlook doors standing open in front of them. But someone who believes their request is being answered pays attention, steps forward, and seizes the moment. Faith is the bridge that connects the ask to the outcome. Faith is not passive waiting. It is active preparation. It is rising each day and saying, I may not see it yet, but I know it is coming, and I will be ready when it does. That kind of mindset draws possibilities closer because it strengthens your resilience and sharpens your focus. Even when setbacks come, and they always do, faith keeps you steady. It whispers, this is not the end. This is part of the process. Consider the times in your own life when you wanted something so deeply that it consumed your thoughts. Perhaps it was a career goal, a personal transformation, or a dream you carried quietly for years. The moment you began to truly believe it was possible, everything around you seemed to shift. People appeared in your life with the right advice. Resources came at the right moment. Coincidences didn't feel like coincidences anymore. That is the subtle power of asking the universe. It is not that life suddenly changes for you, but that you change in the way you see life. And through that new vision, you find paths you never noticed before. But faith without action is hollow. Asking the universe requires you to move, to act as though what you want is already on its way. If you ask for better health, you must take care of your body. If you ask for financial freedom, you must learn to manage your money wisely. If you ask for meaningful relationships, you must open your heart and practice vulnerability. Asking is the spark. Action is the fire that keeps it alive. There is a balance here. You cannot force outcomes. You cannot control every detail, but you can shape yourself into the kind of person who is prepared for what you're asking for. When the opportunity finally arrives, it will not pass you by, because you will already be ready to embrace it. That readiness is the true sign of faith. So ask boldly, not only of people, but of life itself. Speak your desires, visualize them clearly, and then step in the world as if they belong to you already. Hold steady in the storms, because storms are part of the journey. Trust that the universe is not ignoring you, but preparing you. And remember, the greatest rewards come to dare to ask with vision, who believe with patience, and who act with conviction.